Welcome to the Ultimate Landscape CEO. Our guest is Kelli Ann from HYRE, HYRE, also known as HYREup.com. They are an outsourcing firm. They source employees from overseas, and which means the Philippines and from Latin America, to help mostly trades companies expand their capacity and get more from their capacity. They were sponsors of ours last year. They're sponsors of our events this year. And I personally am a huge fan of using overseas labor to augment your current labor. And we get into it. We talk about all the different use cases where they've helped out. We get into how AI interacts with what they do. We get into their backstory. They also own a contracting business or a trades business, if you will, and you'll learn about that. And they needed help desperately at one point, and they started outsourcing, and then it really took off. And I think that's kind of their main business now. And so you'll learn from Kelli the backstory, the pain they personally had, and how they stumbled upon this current form of overseas outsourcing, and how they built the business and how it's going, and how you can get in touch with them. Like I said, I'm a big fan. I've been using people from overseas for years in our consulting business, different people. And I'm just a big fan. We have a few clients that have done a great job. If you're a client of Jeffrey Scott Consulting, we've run private webinars. And if you haven't watched it, by the way, as a client, you should watch that private webinar that we ran, and really explaining how to set it up for your company and do it yourself. Here is a vendor that does it for you. And I gotta say, it sounds very worthwhile to use these people based on their approach to onboarding and making it stick and making it work. And so, they're also sponsors of our sales symposium, which is coming up March 10th. We'll talk a little bit about that, but it's not too late to sign up. If you want to register for that, go to jeffreyscott.biz, go to our events page. Okay, let's jump right in. Here's Kelli. Kelli Ann, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Kelli Ann is from the company HYRE, also known as HYREup.com. That's HYREUP.com. Kelli, tell us what you do, or what the company does.
Yeah. So you might know what we do by a few different names. We staff and manage virtual assistants for companies that are in the US, Canada, and throughout Europe. If virtual assistant is not a term that you're familiar with, you could also phrase what we do as global staffing or offshore staffing, and even nearshore staffing and management. So those are all kind of the terms that define what we do.
And what percentage of your clients are in the landscape/green industry?
Oh, you caught me off guard. I'm not sure exactly the percentage, but I do know that the majority of our clients are at least in the service space. So whether that's, electric or plumbing, HVAC, landscape, moving, like that's our bread and butter.
So kind of trades, is that what you're saying?
Mhm. Yep.
All right, that's excellent. So that means you have a expertise in helping trades-oriented companies to integrate offshore staff.
Yeah, I'd like to say that we're experts at it. Yep.
That's excellent. I think it's so important. Such an important strategy that all companies should be using. And I'm probably by now all companies are somehow using. Like, I hired in my company years ago a gentleman from Kenya who helps me with social media. And so I've been doing it for a long time. And I mean, it's common to hire and outsource in general, right, to companies, but finding the right person and integrating them, I'm sure you're going to tell us how you do it, but how did you guys come up with this idea? Let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah. So we also own and currently manage a moving and storage company. primarily residential with some commercial. And we experienced heavy growth, as did a lot of other companies. I think throughout the 2020, 2021 years, we grew, I think it was 863% over 3 years. We landed on the Inc. 5000 several years in a row. And then the entire country experienced somewhat of a housing crisis because of interest rates increasing. And so many people, ourselves included, had gotten locked into these beautiful mortgage rates, 3% or less. It was an amazing time for that, which meant that your typical cadence of people moving, transferring homes, changing where they lived, slowed down to a trickle because everybody wanted to keep their low interest rates. And that presented us with a pretty big problem because that was the main source of our income. And we had this larger organization, a lot more overhead. We had opened up another location, and we were really struggling to handle everything. Even though we had lower revenue coming in, we still had a lot of processes that had to be handled. And we weren't seeing the dollars to be able to do that. And so Derek, my business partner, just is always the one who goes out and finds solutions. That's his best trait, I think. He looked into, different ways that we could solve the problem. And at the time, AI was not an option, right? And we had gone down the software route to our own detriment. We lost $500,000 on an attempt at, solving the issue with software. So we weren't in a good position there either. And so he went out and ended up hiring our first virtual assistant. And at the time, we had never used a virtual assistant before. We didn't know how to implement a virtual assistant into our team. In a service industry company, a lot of what you do is in person and hands-on. So how do we bring a person who's not even in this country into our organization? And it took us quite a while to really figure out how to do this properly, about 6, maybe even pushing 9 months for us to really get this laid out. But by that time, we had a pretty good idea of other ways in which we could integrate virtual assistants into our company. And so our original virtual assistant actually connected with Derek. So his name is Ramon. And they worked out a plan to start finding new roles inside of our company and finding the people for those roles. And so we soon had another 7 virtual assistants inside of the moving company, helping us just handle all the things that we had to handle in the back office. And the intention of this was we had managers, key players in place who were really starting to get dragged down by all of the little tasks that they had to do all day long that prevented them from doing their main job. So we sat down with each and every one of them and tried to strategize what would be the best position to actually assist you in your job as a key player of this company. And really, that's the short of how we figured out the roles that we needed. So Ramon and Derek ventured off together to start HYRE, so that we could help other companies, because word kind of caught on with a few other people that we knew. There were lots of questions around, how did you do this? How can I do this? Yeah. And we really wanted to help other companies as well who potentially were suffering through the same thing that we were.
Yeah, which is probably every company, really, to some extent at some point. And so Ramon is a co-partner in this?
Yeah, so he's our director of operations. He leads our entire team.
And he's offshore?
Yep.
Awesome. All right. So how many firms have you helped so far?
I know the number of the assistants that we have, which is around 82 right now.
Okay.
We have some large clients who are sitting closer to 20 assistants within the organization. And then we also work with some little companies that are more like solopreneurs. So just one individual and placing a virtual assistant with them. So the client number isn't huge right now. We're pretty boutique at this particular time. But in terms of number of people that we're managing for these companies, we're sitting at around 80.
So what positions? Give me give me the pie chart, the top 5 slices, types of positions you tend to fill in a trade company.
Our largest client currently is a marketing company, and we have several other marketing companies that have come to us with asks for various roles in the
No, but give me for the trades company.
Yeah. So for the trades, it's to be honest with you, it's a very wide gamut of roles. And I think that's actually our differentiator over some other agencies that you might go to, because that was our experience. We did go through an agency when we first hired Ramon, and it was very generalized. Here's an individual who can potentially help you with some administrative tasks. Good luck figuring out what those are. And so we really love to spend a lot of time with our clients where we're discovering the roles that they need inside of their company. Whether that is, from a producer standpoint, let's help our salespeople with CRM hygiene. Never a good thing for salespeople, but the sales manager wants to see that. Helping with follow-ups, setting up appointments for the salespeople, or even we have placed some cold calling positions for trades as well. So they're trying to establish more business. They want to bring somebody in-house who is going to be doing these cold calls because they want it to be very customized. And so we've placed a lot of those roles. Operationally, we've placed quite a few people who just help with logistics and scheduling and things of that nature. And then we also have placed quite a few people that are in the accounting and financial space as well for the trades. So assisting with bookkeeping or AR and AP, which can sometimes be a very tedious process, especially when you're trying to collect on clients, and it's always a set it and forget it. And sometimes things go wrong and you want to make sure you don't get behind on your cash flow.
Yeah. All right. So all three legs of the stool: sales,
Mhm.
production, and admin.
Yep, all of it. And some customer service as well. So I know for our company in particular, we have assistants in every single department, including customer service. And that has been very helpful for us in terms of covering all of our bases. But we've also been able to go above and beyond on a customer service standpoint with regards to the touch points that we have with customers. So instead of being reactive and waiting for our customers to come to us, we are very proactive. We reach out to our customers 2 days prior to any services to go over anything that needs to be done for them, anything we might have missed. And we also follow up 1 to 2 days after service as well, with a phone call, text message. How do we do for you? Is there anything we could have done better? How is our crew? We want to close that feedback loop.
So how quick does it take to get to a client smiling? Meaning like ROI, if like they're using their first, they call you up and they're on their first placement.
Yeah.
How long does that take to get to, oh, it's integrating and I'm getting a return here?
Yeah, we do try to do some coaching up front, especially for those who haven't done this before, because again, it took us 6 to 9 months to really nail this down. So we want to front load that information before we even start with a candidate. That way we've got SOPs lined up and we know what we're onboarding the assistant to do as soon as they start. But I've had clients in their first, we do weekly check-ins to start. That way we can maintain the line of communication and provide as much help as possible. And I've had clients with that first call already smiling. This is awesome. This is better than what I thought it was going to be. I've already thought of 85 other things that this person can help me with. So thank you. And let's continue to work on this.
And so you guys, you are heavily involved in the onboarding as well.
Yes. Yep. So every, and I guess this is a little bit different maybe from what some other companies might do. We do have the option for a direct placement. So what that means is we can go out and do the recruiting for you. You pick the individual, you hire them directly, and then we're pretty hands off at that point. But that is very rare, especially for the people that we work with who this is more of a new idea to them. So we're very heavily involved in the onboarding, and we actually have account managers that are assigned to every account who help to manage the assistants directly on the back end.
Okay. Actually, what does that mean on the back end?
Yeah. So one of the, I guess, fears of working with anybody offshore is how am I supposed to manage this person who's not in my office?
Yeah.
Or not even in this country. And so every account has an account manager who helps to manage up to maybe 10 assistants at a time. And so they're behind the scenes checking in on a daily basis, multiple times throughout the day, to ensure that your assistant is on time. They're working on what you want them to do. They also communicate with our clients directly to give them a way to provide feedback if it has to come if the feedback has to go to an account manager as opposed to an assistant, maybe they're not comfortable giving that feedback. We have the account managers there. The account managers also do all of the time tracking and payroll and all of that. So it's a very easy process for our clients when we do a managed service where they can come in. We help them narrow down the number of candidates to about 2 to 5, and then they can pick from those candidates. They do interviews. We can help administer any additional testing that has to be done, and then they select their candidate, and they get to work on just bringing that candidate into their company, learning their processes, while we can handle all of the kind of HR fluff that nobody likes to deal with.
What's a hire you're most proud of?
Oh man, that's a difficult one.
Is it? What's a hire you're least proud of? How about that?
Oh no, that's even worse. That's so much harder. Oh, I can tell you, generally speaking, the times in which we've had something break down, and I think this is a really educational piece as well. We have had some blunders with regards to client and assistant, and it happens, and it was a learning thing for us as well, where we had to really beef up the amount of communication and education that we're providing to clients up front. But just as an example, we had a client who brought in an assistant and had a very set schedule for work. So it was a US based 9 to 5 schedule, which is pretty standard. Everyone had agreed to that up front, and we noticed, like, partway through the engagement, that there was like lower activity from the assistant. She was starting to kind of complain about some things. We were wondering what's going on. And we found out that the client had made kind of a like last minute decision to change her schedule to be a Monday through Thursday 9 to 5, but a Friday 5 p.m. to midnight. And so that hadn't really gone through us. We didn't really communicate about that. They just worked with her directly. And as I'm sure you can imagine, any employee typically is not going to be very thrilled about changing a Friday schedule to a 5 p.m. to midnight. They might have family, they might have kids they have to take care of. And she didn't really know how to say anything to them about this.
Yeah.
So that was something where we kind of had to come to the table with the client and say, hey, we got to think about this. This isn't like a software that you're plugging in. This is an actual person. So we did work with them. We were able to resolve everything. Everything with that account is fantastic now. But it was just one of those things where we didn't even think about bringing that up in the onboarding process. And so now that's something that we go over pretty thoroughly with clients, with regards to, hey, let's figure out what time is people are going to work for you. What's the expectation here? And we all get on the same page with that up front.
How is AI, you mentioned AI before, how is that impacting your business and even what your placements, how they operate? Like, how's it impacting?
Yeah. I mean, I hear a lot of people speaking about AI, and, if you don't adopt it now, you're going to drown. You're going to be washed out by all of the other companies who are adopting AI. However, with that said, AI needs a babysitter still. I think that's pretty apparent. We love it. We adopt it. We use it, but we are very careful in the ways that we use it. And I'll give an example of that. There have been people who say, why would I need a recruiter? I can use AI to screen candidates, and it's going to give me the best options, and I don't need anybody else to step into this process. That could be true, but at the same time, you have to remember that your candidates are also using AI. So when you have AI versus AI, the AI is going to love itself. So it is going to pick the candidates who have used AI to set up the perfect resume, the perfect cover sheet, whatever it is for the job. So we do utilize AI in our screening process, but it's always overseen by an individual. And so our candidates go through multiple checkpoints before they ever even get to a client.
Yeah.
A lot of that has a human element as well. With regards to how they utilize AI within the other organizations that they're working for, it kind of depends on the process that's built by the organization. We do try to meld into organizations as much as possible so that we're not creating friction or disrupting anything. But we also recommend the use of AI. It can speed up a lot of things and is a wonderful resource when you're looking up solutions to problems. I think it's a very, very good help when it comes to that. And we get the question all the time too, Well, with AI, is your business even going to exist? It's just like, and that's a question that I think a lot of people are getting right now, regardless of what industry they're in.
Mm-hmm.
You hear about all these layoffs, right? 4,000 people are getting laid off tomorrow because the company's adopting AI, right? And like I said, AI is a very useful tool. I do think it still needs some human intervention and supervision for sure. And the other thing is there are always going to be tasks that still need a human touch. And there's also something to be said for the authenticity of humans. I think people are now gravitating to a certain degree towards things that are created by or driven by human beings as opposed to AI.
Yeah.
Um, it's becoming rare, and because it's rare, it's now valuable.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for sure. I mean, if your whole value proposition, you probably have a couple, I'm just assuming. One is you can make people's most valuable employees that much more valuable,
Mhm.
and you can fill holes where they're just, for one reason or another, they can't do it through their own recruiting. And you probably can lower overhead costs in general as a company expands. It's probably those three. What else is it? Am I
Yeah,
right on those three?
no, you nailed it. That's exactly what it is. So I think we utilized our moving company as the original guinea pig, so to speak, for this service. And what we were able to see was from a financial standpoint, we saw a $350,000 annual net savings from our admin line. So massive decrease there, which I want to say was one of the things that helped save our business for sure. But what we also saw was an expansion of what our team members were able to do within the company, which really alleviated their work. And I was just having lunch with someone the other day, and he works for a pretty large organization, and we were discussing the virtual assistant use and AI use, and what's the whole point of this? What's going to happen to people that work inside of the company? Are we just replacing everyone? And the answer is no, we're not. That's not the goal of anything. And he put it in a really good way, I thought, which was his goal of implementing both AI and virtual assistants was to provide a working environment that his employees really loved to be in, where they really loved their jobs, where
Yeah.
we took the things that they didn't love to do or the things that held them back and shipped them off to something else so that they could enjoy their jobs again.
I'm going to switch gears here. Tell me what you plural, you guys, tell me what your philosophy is um, when it comes to placement. And is that question clear enough, or do you want me to refine it more?
Could you refine it more?
Yeah, what is your philosophy as a placement firm that either makes you unique, or at least it's your core principles that you operate by, that help you do such a good job at what you do and possibly differentiate you?
Oh, gotcha. So I touched on this briefly, and like I said, we had worked with agencies prior. And of course, as all new business owners do, they do their due diligence and do a little research on competitors as well. So we did that too. And what we found was that a lot of our competitors, it's kind of a broad stroke, right? Here is a person who is going to do administrative work for you, and you can figure out what that is, and we hope it works out for you. Great. Or it would be a matchmaking service. You click a few buttons on the website, and they're like, hey, on Monday, here's your virtual assistant. Have a nice day, right? And there's not a lot of customization or catering towards the individual company or client. That is, I think, our biggest differentiator by far. We spend a lot of time upfront working with our clients to really dig through their companies and discover what their biggest pain points are, and maybe modify the way they think about those pain points so that we can make a role that is remote that works for them to solve those problems. Um, I think we have an advantage, obviously, having owned a service company. We know a lot of those pain points. We have felt them. We have had like the 24/7 on call feeling that some entrepreneurs have had. We have dealt with clients, we have dealt with business clients and, B2C. And so we've kind of seen the whole gamut of that, which gives us a unique approach where we can resonate really well with our clients. And sometimes I think you get so head down in your company. For one, you kind of forget that other people go through similar things. It can be very lonely sometimes. So it's always nice to chat with other people and commiserate to a certain degree, not feel so alone.
Yeah.
But the other part of it is that it's always great to see alternative perspectives on your company. I always find the most helpful things come from the format in which other people are critiquing me from a third party perspective. Because I'm so inundated in the everyday that I might not see something that someone else sees from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And that's been a game changer for us with regards to how we're able to help other people. Because we see certain things in our company, and sometimes I'm chatting with someone and I realize that they haven't even thought about that, about what they're going through. And so we're able to sometimes unveil some other things that might be problems, but we're also coming to them with an immediate solution to the problem.
Okay. What anything that you want to say that I didn't ask you?
I not that I
Chance, Kelly, to put it on the recording.
No, I mean, we're really happy to be a part of like what you guys are doing with the landscaping world. I don't think that we expected to be working so much in landscape as much as we just assumed we'd be working with moving because that's what we do. But we found so many correlations between the two. It was uncanny. It was a lot of light bulb moments in our conversation with our first ever landscaping company, and just a lot of there's continuity there between the two. And so we're very excited also to be in the sales symposium that's coming up, as well as, the event that's happening in August. So super excited to see everyone. Hopefully we see some repeats. We made a lot of good relationships with people at the last event. So very excited about all of that. And we appreciate you including us in that.
You're welcome. Yeah, the sales symposium is March 10th. And if you want to participate, you can find out about that on my website, jeffreyscott.biz. Best to, if you're going to participate, do it as soon as you can, because we're also collecting some data. And you'll get the output no matter what. But if you want your data on the input side, then signing up sooner versus later will be helpful, because we're doing some benchmarking. So we're excited to see you guys there. All right, so for people who want to get in touch with you, Kelli, what should they do?
Yeah, we have a form on our website. It's a very quick intake form that just tells us a little bit about you, your contact information, and that is the best way to reach out to us, because at that point you can immediately schedule a call with one of us as well for a time that works best for you. Get that on the calendar. And some people book 30 minutes. We can definitely get through a lot of information in 30 minutes. I am very guilty of a very long discovery call. I get into conversations with business owners, and like I said, we really start to dig into the meat of their companies. I have had a discovery call go 2 hours long. It's totally fine with me. If someone doesn't want to go that long, I also understand. Everyone's busy. But that is the easiest way to get a hold of us, get on our schedule so that we can see how we can help.
Okay. And so it's HYREup.com.
Yep, HYREUP.com.
And what you're saying is, here's how I just interpreted what you're saying. If you're just feeling us out, 30 minutes is fine. But if you're ready to do this, then clear up a little bit of your schedule and we'll dig right into where you need it.
Yep. It's I want to kind of also say, I don't want this to be intimidating. It is exceptionally rare that anybody walks into one of these meetings and says, this is what I need. Here is the job description. Go find me a person. Super, super rare. I've only seen 2 people do that so far. Most people come in saying, I want to know more about this. I really don't know exactly how this is going to work out for me, but I would love some help with that.
Yeah.
And I think, like I said, that's really where we shine, because we can bring a different perspective there.
What countries do you recruit from?
Primarily the Philippines and Latin America right now. So depending on what type of role you're looking for, we can go to either region. We find that there are certain situations where Latin America makes more sense just from a sometimes from a time zone perspective, but mainly from a bilingual perspective. And I think in the landscaping world, that can be very helpful. What we've seen specifically is companies who utilize the H-2B program and bring in a lot of individuals during their peak season, and they bring them in from Mexico. We've seen some companies who don't have anyone internally who speaks Spanish.
Yeah.
So it makes it very hard for them. So bringing somebody in from an operational assistant or HR assistant standpoint who natively speaks both languages is very helpful for them in onboarding and continuing their H-2B program.
I have a question. So what's the level of education of these people?
College educated. So we also have partnered with universities in different countries as well, so that we can interview people who are graduating from the universities who are looking for jobs.
So is this young grads that you hire?
We do have young grads. We also have some people, and this is where again we can get very customized, and we can also build a role based on budgetary constraints if necessary. We have placed individuals who are, Agile certified project managers with 15 years of experience under their belt. We have also placed more generalist admin assistants for people who wanted to just kind of start out light. And obviously, there's going to be a little bit of a price point difference there when you're talking about skills and certifications and experience. And so we're very upfront about that as well. When we go to present candidates, we always present with their resumes, a video introduction for each individual, as well as the asking hourly rate. So there's nothing hidden. There's no surprise. You fell in love with this person and they're going to be very expensive. We're very upfront.
How does the hourly rate get set? Like they get to set it or you set it or
We
what?
set that up front, so we negotiate with every single candidate on what it is that they're looking to make. So we have an agreement with them, and then we set an hourly rate that encompasses that, along with the account management that happens behind the scenes and the payroll processing and all of that. And so the hourly rate is all inclusive of the service. So there's no upfront like headhunter fees or recruitment fees that you're going to lose.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I want to ask you. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to, but what, like in terms of pricing, if you want to say, hey, just call me, we'll talk. But what is a range of hourly rates? If I've never done this before and I'm going to do my first one with you,
Yeah.
what should I be thinking or budgeting?
Typically speaking, we start out at around $10 to $12 an hour. So we're not talking about anything massive. When we get into any higher rates, so like I mentioned, project manager, Agile certified, that's going to be closer to 25 to 30. But when you're looking at a cost comparison for an individual with the same caliber inside of the United States, you're probably looking at a six-figure salary. So you are still looking at a savings there, and there's a lot of cost performance that you get with that.
Well, okay, let me put some roles past you here. Let's have a little fun here. One type of position that's hard to hire for is an estimator.
Mm-hmm.
And so getting an estimator who, and it's hard to do it remotely, I think, but it's not impossible. And so a key element with the estimator, though, is that they really have the skills needed. Again, difficult, but not impossible remote. What would that be something I could find through you?
And so this is where we get very customized with our clients. So we start with talking to them about their process of estimation. If there's anything that's done in person, can we do it remotely? And if not, how do we modify the role so that the estimators that you have in person can work with an assistant who's helping them behind the scenes to maybe build up a quote?
Gotcha.
And for that role, I mean, we have placed something like that before, and I think it was like 12 or 13.
Okay. All right, a lot of questions I could ask you, and since we'll be spending some time together, I'm going to ask you those, but not all right here. Any last thoughts you want to add, Kelli?
No, I don't think so. Just like I mentioned, we're really excited to be part of the next couple events coming up, and also very excited to learn about all these other companies. The last event that we went to, we got to tag along and tour Shill Grounds Management, which was really fun and very eye-opening for us. And we also got to learn a lot from that too. So I know there's a ton of value in what you're bringing to the industry. So we're super excited about it, and just, like I said, grateful to be a part of it, and very excited to see if we can help any other companies.
Yeah, we have the Summer Growth Summit picked, it's planning out, and we will be announcing it shortly.
Okay, I'm excited to find out who it is.
It's going to be great. It's going to be really, really good. This is excellent. Kelli, I can't wait to see you help my clients with their staffing, and I will make sure they all listen to this podcast.
Oh, awesome. Sounds great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.